Hello children, I hope you're all well and you've had a lovely weekend. This week it's National Storytelling Week. I thought that in today's assembly I would share with you my favourite story. It's called The Smartest Giant in Town, and the author who wrote the story is Julia Donaldson, and the illustrator who drew all of the wonderful pictures is Axel Scheffler. I really enjoy this story because the giant is very kind and thoughtful and he thinks of others before himself. It's also a rhyming story and I really enjoy reading rhyming stories. Right, are you listening carefully? I'm going to read you a few pages from the story now. I hope you enjoy it as much as I do. George was a giant, the scruffiest giant in town. He always wore the same pair of old brown sandals and the same old patched up gown. I wish I wasn't the scruffiest giant in town, he said sadly. But one day George noticed a new shop and it was full of smart new clothes. So he bought a smart shirt, a smart pair of trousers, a smart belt, a smart stripy tie, some smart socks and a pair of shiny shoes. Now I'm the smartest giant in town, he said proudly. George left his old clothes behind in the shop and he was about to go home when he heard a sound. And on the pavement stood a giraffe who was sniffing sadly. What's the matter? Asked George. It's my neck, said the giraffe. It's so very long and so very cold. I wish I had a long warm scarf. What George is going to do with his scarf now? Cheer up, said George, and he took off his stripy tie. It didn't match my socks anyway, he said, and he wound it round and round the giraffe's neck, and it made a wonderful new scarf. Thank you, said the giraffe. George strode towards home and he sang to himself. My tie's a scarf for a cold giraffe, but look me up and down, I'm the smartest giant in town. George then came to a river and on a boat stood a goat who was bleating loudly. What's the matter? Asked George. It's my sail, said the goat. It blew away in a storm. I wish I had a strong new sail for my boat. Cheer up, said George, and he took off his white shirt. It kept coming untucked anyway, he said. It made a magnificent sail. Thank you, said the goat. George strode on, singing to himself. My tie is a scarf for a cold giraffe. My shirt's on a boat for a sail for a goat. But look me up and down. I'm the smartest giant in town. Not going to read you any more of the story, children, today. I'm going to save that for when you're back in school. Who did the giant help in the story? There's lots of other animals that the giant helped. You may have the story at home to find out, or you can follow the link here and listen to the story on YouTube. What's your favourite story? Why do you like it so much? Some questions here to think about when you're reading and listening to stories. Who's telling the story? Who are the characters? You might also use your imagination to make up your own story. Choose a character and story setting. How might your story start? Once upon a time, one day, long, long ago. Thank you for listening to my assembly, children. I hope you enjoyed it. I can't wait to meet you all when it's safe. Bye-bye.
Hello everyone, this is Mrs. Coleman here, and today I'm going to do a book review for you on one of my favourite stories written by one of my most favourite authors. And that author is Julia Donaldson. If you come into my classroom, you will see lots of stories written by Julia Donaldson. She's one of my most favourite authors. I've got a lovely collection of stories which are beautifully illustrated by a man called Axel Scheffler. He really brings the stories to life with his pictures. I absolutely love them. I'm a massive fan. One book in particular that I really do love is Room on the Broom. This has got fantastic rhyming language in. You can really get into the flow of this story. It's exciting and dramatic. And because it's got lots of repetitive words in it, it means you can all join in together. So I get lots of children to join in with me as we read this, and we can really make that story come to life. It's amazing. It's got great characters in it. And I also love how the witch helps all the characters through the story, and then at the end they all help her. And I think this story is just lovely. And for that reason I'm going to read you just a little bit of the story today. Okay? The witch had a cat, and a very tall hat, and long ginger hair, which she wore in a plait. How the cat purred, and how the witch grinned, as they sat on their broomstick, and flew through the wind. But how the witch wailed, and how the cat spat, when the wind blew so wildly, it blew off the hat. "Down!" cried the witch, and they flew to the ground. They searched for the hat, but no hat could be found. Then out of the bushes, on thundering paws, there bounded a dog, with the hat in his jaws. He dropped it politely, then eagerly said, as the witch pulled the hat firmly down on her head, "I am a dog, as keen as can be. Is there room on the broom for a dog like me?" "Yes," cried the witch, and the dog clambered on. The witch tapped the broomstick, and whoosh, they were gone. Over the fields and forests they flew. The dog wagged his tail, and the stormy wind blew. The witch laughed aloud, and held on to her hat, but away blew the bow from her long ginger plait. "Down!" cried the witch, and they flew to the ground. They searched for the bow, but no bow could be found. Then out from a tree, with an ear-splitting shriek, there flapped a green bird, with the bow in her beak. She dropped it politely, and bent her head low, then said, as the witch tied her plait in a bow, "I am a bird, as green as can be. Is there room on the broom for a bird like me?" "Yes," cried the witch. So the bird fluttered on. The witch tapped the broomstick, and whoosh, they were gone. I hope you enjoyed just that little bit of what is a fantastic story. I am going to read the rest now, so I hope that you're going to find a copy and be able to read that too. Have a wonderful time reading this story. You will be amazed. Thank you for joining me for this book review. Enjoy your reading this week, and I will see you soon. Bye!
Hey everyone, it is National Storytelling this week. So as part of National Storytelling, we are going to read some of our favourite books. And it was really hard for me to choose my favourite book because I couldn't decide. I didn't know whether to do Roald Dahl, I didn't know whether to do Jacqueline Wilson, I didn't know whether to do a Disney book. I was just so confused, but I have narrowed it down to a David Walliams, and I'm going with Mr. Stink. I've chosen David Walliams because I think he is super funny. His books always make me laugh, and he's a little bit like Roald Dahl. So I'm going to read you the first chapter or part of it now, and I hope you really enjoy it. And if you haven't read it, go and find it. See if you can get it on a Kindle, online, in paper copy. See if you can find it because it's fantastic. Okay, chapter 1, Scratch and Sniff. Mr. Stink stank. He also stunk. And if it is correct English to say he stinked, then he stinked as well. He was the stinkiest stinky stinker who ever lived. A stink is the worst type of smell. A stink is worse than a stench. And a stench is worse than a pong. And a pong is worse than a whiff. And a whiff can be enough to make your nose wrinkle. It wasn't Mr. Stink's fault that he stank. He was a tramp after all. He didn't have a home, and so he never had the opportunity to have a proper wash like you and me. After a while, the smell just got worse and worse. Here is a picture of Mr. Stink. He is quite a snappy dresser in his bow tie and tweed jacket, isn't he? But don't be fooled. The illustration doesn't do justice to the smell. This could be a Scratch and Sniff's book, but the smell would be so bad you would have to put it in the bin and then bury the bin very deep underground. That's his little black dog with him, the Duchess. The Duchess wasn't any particular breed of dog. She was just a dog. She smelt too, but not as bad as Mr. Stink. Nothing in the world really smelt as bad as him, except his beard. His beard was full of old bits of egg and sausage and cheese that had fallen out of his mouth years before. It had never ever been shampooed, so it had his own special stink. Even worse than this, his main one. One morning, Mr. Stink simply appeared in the town and took up residence on an old wooden bench. No one knew where he'd come from or where he might be going. The townfolk were mostly nice to him. They sometimes dropped a few coins at his feet before rushing off with their eyes watering. But no one was really friendly towards him. No one stopped for a chat. At least, Not to the day that a little girl finally plucked up the courage to speak to him, and that's where our story begins. "Hello," said the girl, her voice trembling a little with nerves. The girl was called Chloe. She was only 12, and she had never spoken to a tramp before. Her mother had forbidden her to speak to such creatures. Mother even disapproved of her daughter talking to kids from the local council estate. But Chloe didn't think Mr. Stink was a creature. She thought he was a man who looked like he had a very interesting story to tell, and if there was one thing Chloe loved, it was stories. Every day she would pass him and his dog in her parents' car on the way to her posh private school. Whether in sunshine or snow, he was always sitting on the same bench with his dog by his feet. As she luxuriated on the leather of the black back seat with her poisonous little sister Annabelle, Chloe would look out the window at him and wonder. Millions of thoughts and questions would swim through her head. Who was he? Why did he live on the streets? Had he ever had a home? What did his dog eat? Did he have any friends or family? If so, did they know he was homeless?
Hi everybody, I've been asked to choose my favourite book and share it with you. My favourite book is called The Boy in the Striped Pyjamas by John Boyne. Let me explain a little bit about why I have chosen it. It's about World War II. It's about the Holocaust. I will read you an extract and a synopsis of the book. When Bruno's father is promoted to a new job, the family have to move from their comfortable home in Berlin to a new strange house in the middle of nowhere. Gone are the neighbours and the friends Bruno used to play with, and the only people around are in the strange fenced-in area which Bruno can just spy from his bedroom window. Who are they? And why do they wear striped pyjamas? When Bruno sets off on an exploration to find out, he learns something very shocking, which has been unexpected and terrible results. Bruno's childhood experience proves a new way of looking at the horrors of the Holocaust. My favourite part of the film and the book is when Bruno moves to a new house, and he moves to somewhere called Auschwitz. He doesn't know what Auschwitz is, and he certainly doesn't know what this camp is with all these people with their striped pyjamas and hats on. It's an interesting read, and I love it. I've been reading it since I was a young teenager. And now I have the absolute pleasure of sharing it with my class and with you. Some people think that it's a little bit harsh in the fact that it tells us about the World War II and the Holocaust, and unfortunately Jews losing their lives. But I thought it was wonderful, sad in parts, but very thought-provoking. I thought it's a great read, and I think that you would love it. So if you wish to purchase The Boy in the Striped Pyjamas, or you can come to my room and you can borrow it from me, you're very welcome when we return to school. Enjoy the read.
A breeze ruffled the neat hedges of Privet Drive, which lay silent and tidy under the inky sky, the very last place you would expect astonishing things to happen. Harry Potter rolled over inside his blankets without waking up. One small hand closed on the letter beside him, and he slept on, not knowing he was special, not knowing he was famous, not knowing he would be woken up in a few hours' time by Mrs. Dursley's scream as she opened the front door to put out the milk bottles, nor that he would spend the next few weeks being prodded and pinched by his cousin Dudley. He couldn't know that at this very moment, people meeting in secret all over the country were holding up their glasses and saying in hushed voices, "To Harry Potter, the boy who lived." That is my favourite extract from Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. I love all of the Harry Potter books, but this one, the first one, is extra special to me. I read this book for the first time when I was 9 years old, and I fell in love with the world of magic and friendship that were written in these pages. It was a world I could escape to every night, hidden under the bed covers with a torch. I grew up with Harry, Ron and Hermione, and it sparked a love for books that carried on with me into my adult years. I still remember being 19 years old and waiting outside of W.H. Smith's at midnight so I could be one of the very first people to get their hands on the last ever Harry Potter book. And then I stayed up all night reading it. I just had to know what happened. These books taught me friendship, family, and most importantly, the power of love. I've since read these books and journeyed to Hogwarts with my own son. I hope I've inspired you to pick up a Harry Potter book and start your very own magical journey.